to Track in the Week. On Monday, Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board (JAMB) Special Committee on Examination Infractions uncovered 6,458 suspected cases of malpractice threatening the credibility of Nigeria's admission system. Submitting its report in Abuja, the committee detailed 4,251 cases of biometric manipulation, finger blending, 190 cases of AI-assisted image morphing, and 1,878 false claims of albinism. It also flagged multiple NIN registration, credential forgery, and collusion involving CBT centers, schools, parents, tutorial operators, and technical accomplices. The committee, chaired by Dr. J.K. Pele, described malpractice as a highly organized and culturally entrenched enterprise that poses a direct threat to meritocracy and the credibility of the education sector. Receiving the report, JAMB Registrar Professor Ishaq Oloyede stressed that examination malpractice undermines ethical standards, produces incompetent professionals, erodes national development, and diminishes the value of genuine qualifications. Also on Monday, petroleum product marketers threatened to halt their services across Nigeria starting Tuesday, September 9, 2025, if the federal government does not intervene to resolve the ongoing conflict between the Nigerian Union of Petroleum and Natural Gas Workers (NUPENG) and Dangote Refinery. The dispute arises from Dangote Refinery's plan to deploy 4,000 compressed natural gas CNG trucks for distributing its petroleum products nationwide. At a joint press briefing in Abuja, leaders of the Natural Oil and Gas Suppliers Association of Nigeria (NUGASA), Petroleum Products Retail Owners Association of Nigeria (PETRON), and Nigerian Association of Road Transport Owners (NATO) expressed support for the refinery's growth, but insisted it should not jeopardize downstream operators' businesses. Benneth Corey, NUGASA president, warned marketers risk being pushed out if Dangote supplies directly to retailers. On Tuesday, the National Assembly informed suspended Senator representing Kogi Central Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan that she cannot resume her legislative duties yet after serving a 6-month suspension. According to the National Assembly bureaucracy, Akpoti-Uduaghan's suspension remains in effect as the case is still before the Court of Appeal. Recall that after the Federal High Court in Abuja ruled in favor of the Senate, Senator Akpoti-Uduaghan, dissatisfied with the judgment, approached the Appellate Court seeking redress. In a letter dated September 4, 2025 and signed by the acting clerk of the National Assembly, Dr. Yahya Danzaria, the Parliament acknowledged receipt of Akpoti-Uduaghan's notification of her intended return to the Senate on the same date, which she cited as the end of her 6-month suspension. However, the letter clarified that the suspension, effective from March 6, 2025, remains in force while the matter is sub judice. Also on Thursday, INEC and National Bureau of Statistics pledged stronger collaboration to leverage data for national planning, election, and improve public service delivery. The development followed a courtesy call by the Statistician General of the Federation, Prince Adeyemi Adeniro, and senior officials of the NBS to INEC headquarters in Abuja, where both agencies agreed to deepen synergy on data sharing and management. Welcoming the delegation, INEC Chairman Professor Mahmood Yakubu described the visit as historic, being the first formal meeting between the two institutions. He noted that while INEC maintains the country's largest database of adult citizens for electoral purposes, NBS coordinates Nigeria's national statistical system, which captures socioeconomic data across all sectors. Yakubu said the partnership would allow NBS to leverage INEC's extensive network of locations across the Federation to serve citizens beyond election periods. On Wednesday, the Federal High Court in Abuja refused bail requests presented by 5 alleged Al-Shabaab terrorists who allegedly attacked the Catholic Church in Owota, Ondo State, leading to the death of over 40 worshippers. Justice Emeka Nwite, who dismissed their bail application, held that the terrorism charges against them were capital in nature. Correspondent Kule Ojo reported that the judge also held that they were accused of being members of a strong terrorist organization who may intimidate witnesses and influence and jeopardize the trial of defendants before the court. Delivering a ruling on the bail application, Justice Emeka Nwite upheld the arguments of the Department of State Services that the evidence against the alleged terrorists was strong and cannot be glossed over. Besides, the judge said that the argument of the DSS that they would jump bail and bolt away if allowed to go home was not disputed and deemed to be true. Still on Wednesday, President Bola Tinubu held a private working lunch with French President Emmanuel Macron at the Elysee Palace in Paris as his 10-day working leave entered its fifth day. Tinubu was currently on the second tranche of his annual leave, which he was spending between France and the United Kingdom. Wednesday's meeting marked his seventh visit to Paris since resuming office in May 2023, and his first since attending the BRICS Summit in Brazil and Tokyo International Conference on African Development in Japan earlier this year. So far, in the first 9 months of 2025, the president has embarked on 15 international trips across 11 countries. These include summits, bilateral meetings, state visits, presidential inauguration, and official leaves. On Thursday, the Federal High Court in Abuja sentenced the suspected Ansari terrorist commander Mahmoud Usman to 15 years in prison for illegal mining. Usman pleaded guilty to count 10 of a 32-count charge bordering on terrorism. His co-defendant Abubakar Haba, however, pleaded not guilty to all charges. While delivering ruling, Justice Emeka Nwite ordered that both men remain in custody of the Department of State Services. It was reported that the federal government was accusing the duo of conspiring to lead a terrorist group, engaging in kidnappings, receiving training in weapons handling and improvised explosive device fabrication, as well as coordinating attacks on the Nigerian army cantonment in Kanji, Niger State. Justice Nwite adjourned the case to 21st of October 2025 for continuation of trial. Still on Thursday, Nigeria's Coordinating Minister of Health and Social Welfare, Professor Ali Pate, raised concerns over the country's restored progress in malaria control, citing a drop in domestic funding and over-reliance on international partners. Speaking at a high-level dialogue titled Harnessing Africa's Central Role for the Big Push Against Malaria held in Abuja, Pate highlighted that malaria continues to be a major public health burden, accounting for 13% of disease cases in Nigeria. He emphasized the need for stronger local ownership, increased investment in region-specific strategies to tackle the disease. Stressing malaria as an African problem requiring African solutions, the minister announced plans for local production of 600 million malaria test kits annually and welcomed the upcoming launch of an insecticide-treated net RTN factory. Pate also pointed to climate change and drug resistance as growing challenges in the fight against malaria and called for sustainable financing, including tax reforms to support health investment. He urged the integration of malaria control into the broader health system to ensure long-term impact. On Friday, the federal government solicited the support of all stakeholders towards improvement of the education sector, especially at the tertiary level. Minister of Education Dr. Tunji Alausa made the appeal at the inauguration of the governing councils and principal officers of the Federal University of Agriculture and Technologies, Maitama Sule Federal University of Education, and Federal University of Education Zaria. Alausa stated that the creation of specialized universities by the federal government has not only widened the geographical spread of institutions, but has also strategically placed them to serve the purpose of regional goal. He added that it was the intention of the government at the center to ensure equitable access to quality higher education, especially in the areas that address the nation's most pressing needs, such as food security, public health, technology advancement, and environmental sustainability. On that path, the Minister of State for Education, Professor Suwaiba Ahmed, said the initiative keyed into the renewed hope agenda of the present administration on expanding access and opportunity to tertiary education. Lastly, on Friday, the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control (NAFDAC) intercepted counterfeit malaria medicines valued at over 1.2 billion naira in Lagos. The agency disclosed in a statement on Friday that its operatives raided a warehouse in Ilaso-Oshodi area, where 277 cartons of fake Malimal fort drugs were discovered. According to NAFDAC, the unregistered products were concealed in cartons labeled as diclofenac potassium 50 mg and illegally imported from Shanxi Tianyuan Pharmaceutical Group in China. The consignment was falsely declared as spare parts to evade detection. NAFDAC Director General Professor Mojisola Adeyeye described the interception as part of a broader crackdown. This seizure is part of NAFDAC's sustained nationwide operation to protect public health and ensure only safe, quality medicines are available to Nigerians, she said. She explained that the agency had intensified monitoring at ports and warehouses across the country, working with other security agencies to stop smugglers from flooding the market with dangerous products. Adeyeye stressed the government's backing has strengthened the agency's fight against counterfeiters. And that's it from Truck in the Week.